live with Randy Burwick and Bill Holton tonight. We're going to have some fun, talk a little wrestling, everything from college to high school to, people's idols and role models, and you name it. We'll talk old school wrestling. We'll talk some new wrestling and go from there. Again, I'm John Gums. I'm owner and editor of Dakota Grappler. I've been doing this for 20 years, not so much online, but promoting the sport of wrestling. That's been kind of my passion, something that I've always felt that I'm in the right place and doing the right thing when I'm around wrestling. It brings a lot of joy to my heart, and I'm hoping that it does to a lot of other people out there, and I know it does. Yep. I'll have Bill introduce himself real quick, then I'll have Randy introduce himself. Bill and I have been on probably about a dozen times together here. I'll let Bill go.
Hi, Bill Holton here, just in here from Central North Dakota, the Carrington area. Just a huge wrestling fan, been around the sport a lot of years since, wrestled as a kid through high school and been a coach and raised a wrestling son and just spent a lot of time following wrestling. Excited to talk to Randy tonight.
Okay, Bill, I'm excited to talk to you guys too.
Oh yeah. And
that's awesome.
Bill amazes me every time I talk to him. His wrestling knowledge is deep.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Absolutely. So find out more about him all the time. Now, over on the far side, we got Randy Burwick, one of my role models, one of my people I look up to. Introduce yourself, and then the first thing I want you to do is tell me the first time you remember wrestling.
Oh, wow. Okay. It's Randy Burwick over here in Hettinger, North Dakota. I've known both of you guys for a long, long time, and definitely have watched you promote the sport of wrestling in the state of North Dakota. And Billy, I've watched you bring your boys up through the high school ranks and now into the college ranks. And John, your boys are coming up now. Your boys coming up now, and it's just been fun. It's a great, wrestling is such a great fraternity that there's a lot of people that don't quite understand it. They really don't understand it, actually.
True, yes.
When kids compete against kids throughout their careers, and then as they get beyond that, whether or not they're graduating, moving on to college, wrestling in college, or just, moving on to new things in their lives, those kids have a bond that never goes away. And, you can, they'll talk about how they're talking to kids, whether or not they're gaming with them or they're Snapchatting or whatever, Twitter, whatever, and they just stay in touch. I mean, it's just awesome. And your boys, I loved watching Billy's boy wrestle. It was just awesome to see him. I'm super happy with how he's doing at Northern State. And John, your boy, now he's starting to come through the ranks of at their Century. So it's awesome. I've been down here now. I've been doing this for 35 years. And, I think my passion is greater now than it's been before. Wrestling is, and Billy, you attest to this, and John, you attest to this. Wrestling just becomes part of you. And, it's not who you are, but it becomes part of you. And it's just, I'll be honest with you, it's my comfort level. It's where I feel comfortable. So if you asked me what my first really memory of wrestling was when I was in about 5th grade, we had a 2-week thing. And I know they do that in Bismarck, where they have the schools have kind of a 2-week little trial period for kids.
Where were you at?
I was P.S. Berg Elementary in Dickinson, North Dakota. And we practiced over at Hagen Junior High. And then after 2 weeks, you held your little tournament. You held that little tournament over in the P.S. Berg Elementary gym. All the kids were there. Nobody had a wrestling shoe. Nobody had a singlet. Nobody, you were lucky to have tennis shoes, and they got you in the gym, and everybody, didn't really know what the hell we were doing. We were just having the time of our life. And that's that's the first real memory I have of wrestling. Going in there, and I remember there was all kinds of kids. Mom was there, and my brothers were there, and Keith at that time was wrestling, and at the high school, and so we were involved in wrestling. I knew wrestling, go to watch wrestling, but that was my first experience and real thought of what wrestling was about. And man, I'll tell you what, after that, well, I was pretty well hooked. I mean, I was. I mean, I could have sat in a wrestling room every single day and never been happier. I mean, it was just the way it was. And then as a sixth grader, we got to practice with Hagen Junior High. And it was funny because we would go over to their practice place, which was on the gym in Hagen Junior High, and we'd get to wrestle. And man, I was just like, oh, this is so awesome. And at the time, well, obviously still you can't wrestle, the sixth grade into the junior high. But I remember Coach Bill Andrus gave me a singlet and it had an H on it, and it was orange and white and had this H on it. And I went home and I was like, I am something, man. I am, this is the greatest thing. And I'm talking to Mom, and I was just like, oh, I can't wait. Well, came to school the next day, and we went to practice, and the sixth graders, there was myself and Bruce Basaraba and a few other guys, and Coach Andrews said, but I have to have my singlets back. Oh. We just kind of gave them to you just to kind of see what you thought of them. So we didn't get to wrestle, but we had to. Boy, it was the hardest day for me. I remember walking down that junior high hallway, and I had to take my singlet back to him. Oh, no. Like somebody tore my heart out. I was like, oh, I wanted that thing so bad, but yeah, those are my first memories.
That is pretty cool. Like, it's the same kind of memories I had. As kids, we didn't have the video games, the distractions. Yeah. We had a chance to play. To me, wrestling was play. It was a time to get to just, I don't know. It's like going out and shooting hoops for some people. I don't know, or whatever. Getting on that mat and just rolling around for some reason to me was everything. I honestly, as I grew up, wish I had more people like me, because I would have been there more often.
Yeah,
I always was kind of on the smaller side. I wrestled bigger kids a lot when I was young, and I think that really helped develop me. How big were you probably as a fifth, sixth grader?
Oh, not very big. I was maybe, I don't know, 65, 70 pounds, somewhere in there. But yeah, like you said, it didn't matter. I could care less who it was. We were just, that was your time to play. I mean, that was your time to just have the time of your life. Obviously, I had Bruce Basaraba, who him and I were pretty much the same size. So there was some knockdown dragouts when we were that young. Continued on all the way through. But yeah, I mean, I was little. Real little.
When was the first time you actually took it seriously and you decided that you wanted to do well in the sport? Was it later in high school? Was it junior high? Was it when did you start thinking about being serious?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think realistically, once we got to practice with the junior high, and I could see them, and then we get to go and watch their dual meets, and because it was really awesome back then, because you had tons of junior high dual meets. We were dueling everybody: Bismarck, St. Mary's, Century, Williston, Minot. Everybody had junior high teams, and so you had you had a regular dual meet schedule, and you traveled. The kids got on the bus and went to Bismarck and wrestled a junior high dual meet and came home, and I think at that point right there, I decided, I was really intrigued in the fact of how hard can I go? How hard can I make myself work? And I wanted to be really good then. Mm-hmm. I knew right then and there, it was like, Well, but you like that feeling of doing the work, and it's fun to get your hand raised. There's no doubt about it. And
no better feeling. People, I made a T-shirt about it that you don't understand that feeling unless you've had it.
Yeah, and especially in our sport, when you go out and you have to work so hard, and when you're done, that's a feeling you never forget. I mean, you just don't. I don't care if you're winning a lot of the time, or if you're winning some of the time, or if you're winning a few times. That feeling never goes away, and so and that's the beauty of our sport, and because not everybody's we understand, and not everybody's going to be the same, but the levels of success you can have in the sport of wrestling the range is so great, because you can have the ones that can win the championship, and they're getting that part of it. You can have the kids that are placing or doing pretty well, and you can have those kids that win once or twice, and that success to them can carry them on for the remainder of their lives. And I've had kids like that. I've absolutely had, and I've loved coaching every single one of them because of what they've developed into, and what the sport truly meant to them, and what they got from the sport. Yeah, we'd like them all to be the state champs, bar none, but they're not going to be.
Yep.
But by God, if they can take the values and lessons that our sport can teach, and they can take that for the remainder of their lives, we've won.
Yeah,
we've won, and they've won, and that's the greatest thing. I have a young man wrestling for me right now, and I'm going to tell you this: this kid is going to turn into a wonderful, wonderful young man, just because of the sport.
Right.
Just because of the sport. And so, yeah.
That was where I fell in love with coaching. That was the turn. I've always loved the sport, but seeing those individual successes, it's greater than the sport itself. And I do agree. Bill, you got any major questions to start here? I've got many of them for Randy.
Yeah, there's obviously a lot to talk about with Randy. And one thing I thought of when you were talking about that, getting started and the things, the lessons that we've learned in this sport, but one thing that we saw in wrestling, and Randy, you didn't mention it, and I know where John started, and it was the same way. If a lot of other sports, if kids were in those sports and they had to roll up the mats and roll out their mats there's a lot of kids wouldn't do it. Absolutely. I mean, that's stuff that we learned right away, that if we were going to go and wrestle that day, we had to move all the lunch tables, then roll all the mats out, and then we were done after, and the practices were all long, and we ran and we did everything else, and then we'd roll all the mats back up and put them away so we could do it all again tomorrow. Yeah. And those were lessons that we learned that we didn't have wrestling rooms. I mean, I started obviously in an elementary school that had an elementary program, had kind of a season, and then when I got to junior high, it was at Valley Junior High in Grand Forks, and the same way we had a dual season. We traveled a little bit up and down the valley and over into Minnesota and had duels, but every single day, every day, I mean, it was it would be a great thing if we had a duel because someone else has set up the mat, But when we were practicing, and I think I haven't thought of that in a long time, but that was one thing that I think we learned great lessons, and I think that kind of helped us learn to work together as teammates.
Yep. For sure.
And I could just kind of picture that. I mean, I know they probably had to do it on the stage in Napoleon, and my guess is in Dickinson it was a similar situation. Yep. But that was kind of fun.
Yeah, if people haven't been around how heavy those mats really are.
Oh, they were really heavy back then, and
thank goodness they're lighter now.
They were. But you learned how to roll them. You learned, you had to, and we did have to pick them up and put them up on a stage every night.
Yep.
And it was just, it's kind of funny when you think about that I really think those were lessons that, and I have no doubt it probably weeded some people out. You know, I mean, not that we wanted to, but I'm sure it did.
Yep. For sure.
And you know, as opposed to everybody puts on their shoes and runs out to the floor and they roll balls out and we go play. You know?
Yep.
And
for sure.
You know, when I was in elementary school, I started when I was in first grade. You know, like a lot of maybe kindergarten. I think it was first grade though. And I came from an elementary school where we had a lot of it. Our gym teacher was a 2-sport, 3-sport college athlete, older guy, you know, even at that time. But you know, so we all did everything. We played flag football in the school. We had the track team. We did all that stuff, and we just all tried everything. So, you know, you asked Randy when he got serious about it. It was kind of the same way. You know, at some point in Grand Forks, North Dakota, you had to make a decision, right? You were going to wrestle, you're going to play football or basketball, or of course you were going to play hockey. And I did all of those things. And that day you make that switch, right? That, okay, well, in the winter I have to do one of these things.
Yep.
And you make that choice and it was just I think it was a pretty easy decision for me. It was a sport that I really, really enjoyed all the time. So I kind of think Randy probably see the same thing.
Randy, do you remember some of the wrestlers you looked up to when you were young right away?
Oh, sure.
I'll mention a couple. Throw a few names out there. I love that.
Well, the first and foremost one was my brother Keith. I mean, you know, obviously he was the guy I just loved. You know, Brad Ladbury was another one. Jim's older brother. You know, there was a Kenny Berg. He wrestled for Dickinson High. He was one of the smaller guys. You know, and I always liked Kenny. I always would watch him because he was just so intense, and he was quick. He was fast. He was, you know, he relentless. You know, those guys. Bill Leach was another one that I really liked to watch wrestle. Those guys there, you know, coming up, you know, as Keith was wrestling, you know, the Reimnitz brothers were all at Bismarck High, the Sandoval's at Mandan High School. I remember all those guys, the Beachies, you know, I remember all those guys. And I remember going and watching Keith wrestle. And I was like, man, those guys are awesome, you know? And I remember such, you know, there were some of those matches, like Keith's match with Dave Reimnitz, just back and forth. Just you just knew they were really, really good. And it was just a thing of beauty to watch them wrestle. And, you know, so those are guys I looked up to. You know, I wanted to be like them. I did. I wanted to be like Kenny Berg. I wanted to be like Keith Burwick. I wanted to be like Brad Ladbury, you know, those guys. I wanted to be like those guys because to me, they were superheroes. And so those are some of the guys there that I, you know, when I was younger, you know, when I was in the junior high and going through. And
how about you, Bill?
Like that? Well, when I was younger like that, I was in Grand Forks and it was all kind of the Grand Forks Central wrestlers, you know, the Pat Simmers, was a big guy that ended up playing football at NDSU, I believe, but he was Vito Perone, you know, Jack was my age, and his brother Vito was just a beast, I thought at the time. I mean, and he looked like a Greek god to me. I mean, it was like, what the heck is this? You know, and then you know, one that kind of stands out, that it seemed to run camps, and I think he was probably in college at the time, but was Bruce Moe.
Bruce Moe.
Okay,
for sure.
Bruce was, I think he was at UND at the time, and he kind of brought freestyle wrestling into Grand Forks at the time. And this was before I moved to Fargo. So, there was some of those guys that there's probably some others. I know there was a Connell that was really, really fun to watch. But yeah, you know, Vito Perone was one that I always, of course he was just the name probably was impressive when you're little like that, but he was a beast,
Yeah.
and I didn't, and so Jack and I ended up kind of in junior high becoming buddies, but I went to Valley Junior High, he went to South Junior High, and we would have both ended up at Central. He did, and I ended up at Fargo South, but we actually went together to Monte Trusty camp, Milo Trusty camp out of BSC back in it was a lot of it was in the 1900s. It was in the 1970s, but it was a long time ago. But those are names that I remember. And Mike Simmers was closer to my age. He was probably a freshman when I was a seventh grader, and then his couple older brothers that wrestled on the team, and they were big guys, and and I was not, I was probably 95 pounds or something as a seventh grader, probably as an eighth grader too, for that matter. Yeah, I think I was a freshman. I think I weighed 120.
Well, I'll make it quick, but I'll throw out a couple names that you just brought up some memories. When you said Greek God, that was Jock Rice for me in Napoleon. The guy was about 5'9", but 155 pounds of just all muscle,
solid muscle,
and that's all he had. He would him and Poles would wrestle one another, or some of these other guys, and it was a battle. I mean, I idolized those guys. They'd run, and it was a physical wrestler. I was never that physical wrestler until probably college or anything, but those guys were so physical in high school that I was just going, if I could do anything like that. It was amazing. I idolized a guy named Jeff Piatz.
Oh, sure.
A couple times state champion in Napoleon and just made the Hall of Fame. And to me, he was just smooth. I mean, and it was just the basic stuff, doubles and singles. But when people can't stop you, as you start going, you start taking people down and then dominate on top where you could turn them in any position. And I really like the finesse and strength for some reason. The Shear brothers in Napoleon, I liked all the Shears were phenomenal to me. Kyle, surprisingly, was the lanky guy, and I know him pretty well off now. He doesn't look like he was ever lanky.
Well, me too.
Yeah, that's probably me too. But he would hook a back ankle, and I just remember the moves that they did. And do the same way. I can still see them wrestle today. Hook the back ankle, crossface cradle people, and this old style stuff.
That still works.
I still see the moves they all did, and I don't know if that's how our memory works. So they burned it in so well to our memory. Yeah. And I could go on forever, but it was phenomenal experience, and I wouldn't change it for the world. It was awesome. Definitely.
Yep.
Now, Randy, good college career. Tell me, I'm going to keep going. We'll get to your high school stuff and your team after a bit. I like getting your history. Sure. Tell me your decision on college and wrestling and doing your little snippet in college. Tell us a little bit there.
Well, it was, coming out of high school, I was recruited by some bigger schools, NDSU and UND at the time. I had some visits, the Minnesota coaches came, and, that was funny question. Funny that you asked that question, because, Kyle and I, when he was going through this process, I told him, I said, buddy, listen, I'm not going to make a decision for you, because I said, this is how I made my decision. Obviously the schools, Minot State, Valley, Mayville, Wahpeton, Bismarck State. I mean, we had Jamestown. We had a lot of schools in the state. I guess the decision for me was I liked being at home. Mm-hmm. I liked being at home. I liked Coach Burgess. He had recruited some really good kids, and he had a plan for what he wanted to do at Dickinson State. He really did. He had a plan of where he wanted that program to go. And, I felt like I fit in there. I felt like that was where I was going to fit the best. And it worked out. I mean, I got to stay home. I got to stay close to my family. And
rumor has it that two coaches, UND and NDSU, were pissed that you didn't come out there. I'm serious. I talked to a couple of coaches about it a long time ago. Yeah, they said that they actually expected you to come out east there.
Well, yeah, Coach Mon and I can't remember the coach at UND at the time, but I just wanted to stay closer to home, and I felt like Coach Burgess had a good plan for what he was going to do at Dickinson, and we were really a good wrestling team, and great guys on the team. I don't remember guys getting in trouble or having great issues. We were really close, and that really made wrestling fun. It really did.
Throw a few of the names out that were wrestling there at the time.
Well, at the time, Leroy McCormick wrestled. Leroy was part of our team. Bruce Basaraba started at Dickinson and then went to Bismarck State. Robbie Kuderna is named there. Jim Ladberry, John Bannis, Chad Liebeck, Jeff Pitch, Jeff Nagel,
that's pretty good.
Dave Michelson. We had really, really a good wrestling team. Kurt Lesser. We won the conference 3 out of the 4 years I was in college. And, it's funny because, I have some pictures in my office, and I have a picture, I think it was my junior year in college, and I have the picture of the 10 conference champions. And if you looked at it, there was 3 from Dickinson, there was 3 from Jamestown, there was 3 from Bismarck State, and there was 1 from Mayville. But what I tell those kids is that every single one of those conference champions in our conference, the NDCAC, became a national All-American or a national champ that year.
Oh, wow.
Every single one of them. The Shear brothers from Bismarck State that wrestled from Mulbridge, Kyle and can't remember the other.
Kenny.
Kyle and Kenny. They were 2 of our champs. You had
Kyle's boys wrestled at Nebraska.
Yes, you had Mike Holmes, who was from Mayville. You had Paul Seabroof. You had Gabe Damiani. You had Kurt Lesser. You had Leroy McCormick. Myself.
Yeah.
Oh, it was brutal in the conference. When you went in and you were like, oh my goodness sakes. It was. But for that decision alone, I wanted to be closer to my family, I guess, and I thought Coach Burgess really had a game plan of what he wanted Dickinson State to look like, and he held true to that. We worked extremely hard. We stuck together as a team. We traveled, and he made everything the way he said it was going to be.
Have you ever had a reunion of those guys?
We're actually having one this summer. We're actually having one this summer. I think I talked to Jeff Hickok is really in charge of it. And Jeff, funny thing about Jeff is Jeff wrestled, I don't know, probably 7 years. He was in college for a long time.
Forever.
And he actually wrestled with Keith, and then he wrestled with me. And he still was in school when I left. So but Jeff is in charge of that. And it's going to be awesome to see those guys and just sit down and John Bannis. I hadn't talked to John Bannis since college was over. And once this thing got in place, now I have him on Facebook. And so, I'm watching, I'm getting to check John out and talk to John a little bit. Well, hell, his daughter wrestles now. Which is so cool. And it's going to be fun. Yeah. But, that was the decision. I just wanted to be closer to home. I knew I had a good support group there. And, I felt Coach Burgess was going to take our program where he wanted it. And we did. We did what we needed to do. And, it was a sad day for me because after my junior year, Coach Burgess decided to move back.
Correct.
Move back to Sheridan. And then Coach Olson, who was at Jamestown College, took the job at Dickinson State, and really was kind of at the time you're a senior in college, so you're just you got to get through it.
Mm-hmm.
And Ole did a great job. Don't get me wrong, but it was two different spectrums of coaching styles. And, Coach Burgess was so hands-on and really was, we broke down a lot of things. We worked on a lot of things. Ole was more, you just have to be tough, which was fine, but it was, to a point where, hey, God doggone it, we need to get smaller. My senior year, I needed to be at 126 pounds, bar none. I was too big for 118 pounds anymore.
Yeah, I
did not want to be there. And I wrestled at 126 2/3 of the year. And I remember this because the closest match, and it was a Northern State young man, Doyle Everson from Northern State. He was my closest match of the year. And that was like it wasn't close at 126. And then right before the regional tournament, Ole made us all go down, and the rest is history.
Right.
I mean, Doyle goes to the finals at 26, loses in overtime. I get third at 18 because I couldn't, I was like, screw this. But that was the reason why I went.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Now, after that, tell us how you got into coaching from there. What did you do after college?
Well, yeah, that's kind of a story there.
Yeah.
Well, right after college, I wanted to stick around and help coach at the college, but Ole had some assistants, and so Jim needed an assistant at Dickinson Trinity, Jim Ladberry.
Okay.
And so I went over and I was an assistant with Jim for 2 years, and then Trinity decided at that time, and which really kind of bothered me because the second year I was there, we had some really good kids. We had kids, Todd Parks and Chris Vogelsang, and these guys all placed I think we finished 5th or 6th in Class A that year.
I wrestled Chris. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, good wrestler
in the semifinals. My junior year.
Yeah, well, you were the one that beat him then.
Yep.
And I mean, we had a good team. Todd's Billy Jerome and these guys, and we had all the Melmers coming up. I mean, they were all coming up, and
they decided to join Dickinson.
Yep, they decided to co-op with Dickinson High, and so I kind of was in limbo. I didn't know what to do. I was sub teaching. I didn't have a job, so Ole asked. The assistants left, and then I was with Ole for 3 years, and then after that, I needed a job. I needed a teaching job, and they weren't as easy to get then. and it was funny because after that last year, Jeff Nagel calls me, and he calls me. He was coaching in Caldwell, Idaho.
Okay.
And he says, Randy, I'm moving back to Montana. I'd like you to apply for this job. This is a great community. Got a great wrestling program, great wrestling tradition. You need to apply for this job. So I did. I drove out to Caldwell, Idaho, and interviewed, 4 or 5 hours that day, interviewed. They offered me a contract, and I signed it. And I was like, okay. And they go, and that was on a Friday, and I drove back home, and I needed to be back out there on Monday. And so I went home, and I told Mom, I got a job. I'm moving to Caldwell, Idaho. And so Saturday, I lined up a trailer, loaded up whatever little things I had, and the phone rings. And it's Chuck Siemens. Okay. And Chuck goes, hey, there's a coaching job and teaching job in Hettinger, North Dakota. He says,
was Chuck at that time coaching or teaching somewhere?
Yeah, he was in South Dakota, I think.
Yeah.
He was in South Dakota. And Coach Bauer was going back to Wyoming. And I said, yeah, I'll apply. So I actually drove down here to Hettinger on Sunday morning or Saturday evening, interviewed, and Mr. Rasher and Mr. Berkeley go, well, can we take a few days? And I said, well, I got to be in Caldwell, Idaho on Monday. So I need to know tomorrow. And I'm leaving Dickinson at 10 o'clock.
My trailer's packed.
And my trailer's packed. and so I get home and I shower the next morning. Mom and I eat breakfast and I'm kind of sitting around and it's 10 minutes to 10. And I'm like, Ma, I got to go. I gave her a hug, gave her a kiss, told her I loved her. And out the door I was walking and the phone rings. And she said, should I answer it? I said, yeah, I answer it. Well, here it was Steve Rasher. And he says, hey, do you want to come to Hettinger, North Dakota? And I'm like, hell yeah, I do. I said, the only problem I have is I got a signed contract in Caldwell, Idaho. And I remember he goes, don't worry about it. I'll take care of it. And, I always tell people I had a contract in Caldwell, Idaho for $34,000, which was a lot of money.
Yes.
And I took the job in Hettinger for that first year for $15,600. And I've been here ever since.
Yep.
So that leads me to where I'm at right now.
Nothing to spend it on down there.
No, hell no, Gotta go wrestling.
Did you coach wrestling and football right away?
Yeah. I actually coached wrestling, football, and track.
Yeah, well, you should for that much money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And I remember the track pay was like $600 and head wrestling, I think they gave me an extra $1,100. And for football, it was maybe $800 or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it all, And I did that for 11 years. And I finally said, one's got to go. And so I got rid of, I stopped coaching track and field and coached football for 29 years. And I retired from that last year. So,
well, what's crazy is a lot of people didn't know how much football you were coaching.
Oh yeah. I coached football for a long time.
Yeah.
I love football.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it.
And you got a lot of your wrestlers from there.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Yeah. So for 29 years, I coached football and I knew that, I wanted to be able to go and watch Kyle. So I needed to, and I had a great young assistant that had played football for me in high school and came back and he's teaching now. And he's going to do a great job. He's going to do a great job. Had a tough year this year, but that's just the way it is. And you freed up a lot of time and, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Now, Hettinger, when you first got into Hettinger, it's always had a rich tradition.
Yeah.
What was your biggest challenge going in there as a young coach? What would you tell the other coaches stepping into position?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. Young guys and Sean Elkins now is coaching up at Killdeer, and Sean's going to do a fabulous job and with Patrick there and but the biggest thing for me was when I first got here, hell, I wasn't very much older than the kids that I was teaching. And but I knew right away, hey, you draw the line. There's no friendship. I'm your coach. Are you there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, something happened to my thing here. I lost you guys.
You're still good on our side.
Okay. You can see me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You don't need to look at us, our pretty faces.
Okay. Okay. And I just told him, I said, hey, dude, you gotta be tough. I mean, you gotta be tough. You can't have this. I'm trying to get, this is kind of bugging. There we go. You gotta be tough. I mean, you've got to separate that line. You cannot,
you have to have your standards.
Yeah, you cannot. Yeah, you can pat them on the back and you can help them out, but there's that line that you just have to make sure that you don't cross and that you don't allow those kids to try and get across it. You just explain to them, I'm your coach. I will do whatever I can for you. That's where it ends.
Right.
That's where it stops. You know what? I'll be there for you. You ever need me, I'll be there for you. But I'm here to make you the best person you can be. And that for young guys, that's kind of tough. I see some young teachers coming in and it's not going to work.
Right.
But
Randy, I got a question.
Sure.
So obviously you coached a long time. You coached quite a few years before you were a parent. And I don't mean coaching Kyle or, coaching your own kid, but just how did you kind of see a difference in the way that, and I would probably be the same way in the classroom as it is, on the field or the mat.
Yep.
How did you see yourself changing as you became a parent and when in your coaching and teaching?
Yeah. That great question. I think one of the things was that I had to really, really concentrate on with Nathan and with Kyle was, I made some mistakes with Nate. I would bring wrestling home. I would bring it home. I'd see him in class and we'd talk wrestling, and then we'd go to wrestling, and then we'd come home and hey, we got to do this and we got to fix this. And that was a great lesson. We got through that okay. But, with Kyle, I always would tell him, dude, we're going to wrestle at practice. When we get home, you're my son. I'm not, what? You want to talk wrestling? You bring it up. You decide when you want to talk about it. You decide when you want to go to the gym. You decide, and I'll be there. And, that was a tough thing when I had Nate wrestling, because it was like, I needed to, it was like, man, we got to fix this every single second of the day. And it didn't work,
That's great.
And so it was a good lesson. And Nate had a good career. And then, Kyle, I just separated that. I told myself, you cannot do that. I didn't talk wrestling at school. If he came down and he wanted to watch film, that was fine. We would sit down and we'd break down film. If he wanted to talk wrestling at home, we did that. But otherwise, it was like, dude, hey, how was your day? What, we talked. If you want to talk football, and that was the thing, because I coached him in 2 sports, actually 3, because I coached him in baseball.
Yep.
And if you wanted to run routes or whatever, I'd throw the football in the yard. If you didn't, hey, so be it. That's fine with me, and but yeah, that was a little tougher when I had Nate, and I made some mistakes. And so when dads asked me, hey, how do you, I just told them, I tell them honestly, I said, if you bring it home and if you constantly have it in their ear, you're going to lose them. You're going to lose that drive in them. Let them build their own drive, and they'll do it because that's what they want to do. They love it. And you just let them drive that car. You're just guiding it along. And when they need you, they'll ask you.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Definitely. Okay, now let's talk about this year's wrestling team. We're going to break it up just a little bit. Tell me how your year's going, what you're looking forward to, and I know you're having a successful season, but you had a couple of years. The last few have been very good. But tell me of the growth of your team this year, and go through your lineup a little bit.
Yeah. Oh man, I'll tell you what. I've got a great core group of sophomores right now. I think we have 9 sophomores that just they're really starting to come around. They're really starting to believe in themselves. They're starting to, understand, the harder I work, the more I'm going to get out of it. We're obviously having, I tell the guys every day, man, we're getting better. And that's what I see. I see us coming to practice, and we're getting better every day. Whether it's a position on, one of the things we really wanted to address this season is we were not very good on top. We weren't. I mean, we just guys were getting away from us way too easy. So we really focused on that early in the season. We said, guys, we need to be able to keep people down. We need to be able to get some near fall points. We need to, if the match is close, we need to be able to ride these guys out. We need to be able to hold them down. And they bought in full-heartedly. And we have really grown in that aspect of it. I just love watching these guys now. I got a little freshman. His name is Tristan Pekas. And we went up to rugby this past weekend. And, I said, Tristan, we're gonna go up to 170. We're gonna go up to 170. We know there's some really good kids, but we need to see what that's going to be like. And this kid is last year. I'll be honest with you, guys. He couldn't have rode anybody for 25 seconds. Couldn't. And he got in a couple matches down there against some really good kids. And I mean, they were 2 minutes solid ride outs, and the guys never got off their bellies. They never got off their bellies. We were hammering on top. And that's what I see from my guys right now. They're just getting better every single day. We're battling a little bit of illness, but everybody's going to go through that. I think from the start of the season to where we're at right now, we're not even the same team. We're just not. We're way better than what we were. And I think we can still, in the next month, I think we're going to make some really big strides, because I think our confidence level has risen just in these last few tournaments that we've wrestled.
Right.
Miles City, we had a very good outing there. Rugby, we beat some really top-notch kids. And in some of the matches, we really beat them handily. Now, it's high school wrestling. I understand that. That could change in a week. But if the mentality stays the same, I don't think it changes. I think we've finally gotten to that point where we've separated a little bit. We've got some distance now. And so now we're in their head. Now we're in those guys' heads. They're going, crap, I used to beat that kid. Now he's beating me. And now it's even worse than I thought. Right. And, like I said, a great group of sophomores coming up, sprinkling, I've got some really good young junior high kids that are tough. My little 8th grader at 106 is going to be just a knockdown, drag out kid. Jeff Frank, remember the name from years ago. That's his boy. Just a tough, hard-nosed, good technique, physical, got 1 million ounces of try in him. He's going to battle. It's going to be a great weekend. We go to New Salem on Friday, and he'll wrestle the top 2 guys in the state. He'll wrestle Mason Melmer, and he'll wrestle whether or not they put Kogar out there or they'll put Ingwich out there. Whichever ones, he's going to wrestle both of them Thursday night or Friday night. And I can guarantee it, he's going to bring it. He's going to he may not win, but he's sure as heck going to bring it. And Peyton Toohey.
That's hard to teach.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, it really is. And then at 113, it's a little Peyton Toohey, who's always had great ability, just really didn't have that belief in himself. And man, I'll tell you what, he went to rugby and just rolled through that tournament. I think he had 2 techs and 2 falls, and I think it was 16-1, 16-0, in the finals against a real good kid from Northern Lights. And, so he's bought into, what he's bought into is just understanding to control his mind, controlling the fact that, if somebody scores on you, it's not, the match isn't over.
Right.
Just keep wrestling. and he's bought into that full-heartedly, and the kid is just getting tougher. I wrestled with him tonight, and it was like, dude, what the heck, and we're just working on refining some positions for him. Just some positions he feels a little bit, not quite sure yet. So we're just working on those and just trying to get him to understand, maybe a hand placement here, or maybe my head needs to go inside. Instead of just bailing on this position, I'm going to fight the angle a little better, and they might score, but I'm going to make them earn that. And then, my 120 pounders, Gavin Daly, he's a little sophomore. He lost to the young guy from Carrington last year in the quarterfinals in overtime.
Not Laura.
Yeah, the Lura boy.
Yep.
Yeah,
And,
Tristan. Yep.
Tristan. And they had a really good match already this year, a 14-8 match. We gave up a couple near fall points in there that we shouldn't have. And, he's a gamer. I mean, he's a gamer. He knocked off that Chance Burns from Grafton this weekend. So that was a big win for him. But he's a gamer. He's good. 126 is little Miles Weekman. He's another little sophomore. He's kind of up and down. His consistency isn't quite there yet. But he'll battle the best kids around, and he'll wrestle them hard, and he'll wrestle them tough, and no back down. And, good things are going to happen for him as he starts to get a little more confidence. And as some of these kids graduate, and, he'll rise up. He's going to come up. Cade Warbus is having a really nice year at 132. He's got probably the best technique in the room. And he's just, he's a tough kid to wrestle.
Mm-hmm.
He really is. 138, we've got a combination of Connor Andrus and Ezra Weekman in there now. Both of those guys are super solid. Connor's just got some great top game to him right now. His attacks on his feet, the biggest part for us now is our bottom wrestling. Ezra has come a million miles. He's super solid on his feet. He's got some great top game, and his bottom game's good. So, he's probably not going to beat the top tier guys, but he's definitely a guy in contention for that, fourth on down, third on down. I mean, he's in contention for that. Like I said, at 160 or 152 is Ty Warbus. He's one of our two seniors, and Ty's he's wrestling better than he ever has. Let's just put it that way. He's got some hammers at that weight. Oh yeah. What's his name from Carrington? Doggone it. We can wrestle him on our feet, but oh my God. I mean, the guy's a cradling machine,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness sakes. He's
long arms and strong hands. Yeah.
Oh, we'll wrestle him super on our feet for 2 periods, because we'll go 2-0 or 0-0, and then we'll pick on our feet, and then all of a sudden I'm going on top, and it's like, shit, shoot. Didn't mean to swear. But he's wrestling better than he ever has. I'm just hoping that through the season, finish strong. You're a senior. This is your last go at it, and he understands that. And this is the hardest he's worked all his career, and good things are happening for him. And then Tristan Picas and Landon Stang, they're both freshmen at 70 and 60, and Landon's come a million miles for us this year. Tristan, he started as a 7th grader for me, and he's been wrestling these big dudes all his career. He's been 152, 160 pounder for 3 years, and now he's starting to get a little. I can beat these guys, and he beat the Selzer kid from.
Yeah, I was going to say that win over the Selzer kid. That's a big win. That's a pretty good win.
Yeah, I mean, he beat the Selzer, and he handled him. That kid's a little rolly round guy. He caught us. He got a 5-pointer on us. We ended up beating him like 12-7, but he 5-pointed us. Like I told him, I said, if he reverses us, that's a 12-4 match. you know, because he's not going to turn us on top. But we don't want to get in a situation where we get put to our back. But that's a young freshman, and but he responded. The way he responded was way bigger than how the match was. I mean, he just responded tough. He got off his back, got a reversal, got a turn. So that was a huge win for him. And then we got a couple guys at the top. A young freshman at 182. He had a nice weekend for us. His name is Ashton Jabrat. He's really getting better every day. He hadn't wrestled for a few years, but now we got him back on the mat. Big, strong kid. He's got a good foundation. We're just slowly trying to throw a few wrinkles in for him, and he's figuring it out. And then, he finished 6th up in rugby, so that was a good tournament for him there. And then Gage Goldaddy will be our 195 pounder. He's a little 8th grader, and he battles hard. He's just kind of stuck in there. Yeah, he's young. 195
big weight.
195 pound 8th grader. It's a little tough.
You're gonna learn. You're gonna take some learning.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we struggle to get the big guys. We got a lot of them walking around. I just can't convince them to. But we're a good team. I mean, we're not like, you look at Carrington. Those guys are rock solid. I mean, they got those guys that are going to score those major points. You look at South Border. You look at Lisbon. You look at Bishop Ryan. Bishop Ryan can score a pile of points at the state tournament just because they have potential to have 2 state champs there. Those teams like that. Like I told the guys in Linton, after the first day, we were in 8th place in Linton. And I told them, I said, we have to embrace what we are. And what we are is a wrestleback team. We're a team that needs to score points in the wrestlebacks. And, I brought up Iowa winning or Minnesota winning the national championship without a finalist.
Yeah. And
I said, guys, you can win by coming through the wrestlebacks. And so that next day we come out and we score 82.5 points in the wrestlebacks, and we're sitting 2nd place until Hogarth wins his championship match. And so Carrington leapfrogs us. Obviously right now, South Border and Lisbon, hey, you know what? They're good. Yeah. They're really good.
Oh, yeah.
And they're really good. And Velva's got a really nice team. Well, I'll tell you what, they're rock solid in every weight. After that, hey, anything's possible. Anything's possible. You got to, we got to just embrace what we are. And that's, what? If we can get to the finals, fantastic. If we don't, we got to understand that we score our points in the backside. That's where we have to live.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's kind of what we are.
Yeah, well, that's an important thing to learn, though. I mean, there's a lot of points, and that Minnesota team's a good example. I've seen a lot of teams at the state tournament score a lot of points on the backside. There was a lot of Carrington teams that took 2nd that scored a lot without a finalist.
Yeah, and you got to come through you've got to learn to embrace what you are. Your makeup is what your makeup is. You're not all of a sudden going to have 5 finalists. It's just not going to happen. But if you can have 9 guys in the top 5, hey, you're going to make a run for something.
Yep.
You're going to make a run. You're going to make some noise. And, that's kind of where that's the direction we've taken right now.
Okay. Now in the West there, Region 4, what does it look like for the teams for making the duels?
Boy, that's going to be something. I mean, we've got an early season win over Bowman County now. We have obviously New Salem and Beulah on Friday. Then we come back the following Tuesday and we have Killdeer. The big thing about it is I think on paper, if you look at it on paper, New Salem's probably the strongest team. They're probably the strongest simply because I think they can get a few more bonus point wins. But I also look on paper that we could win 8 matches against them.
Mm-hmm.
And not to say we will, but we definitely have I mean, it's there.
Right.
It is there. Bowman County could do the same thing against them.
So your region's going to be tight.
Yeah, and Killdeer is the one, and even Beulah. Beulah has some holes just like we do. We give up 12 to start with. So when you're down 12, that's a battle.
Remind me, do you guys have a dual tournament yet?
Yeah, we do.
You do it again.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought you did, but I knew you didn't for a while, but I thought you'd started one.
Yeah, we have for the last 4 years. We've done that. So
that's what I thought.
And that's a nice thing, you're going to have to, the big thing about it is you got to get the matchups right, and you got to get the toss-ups. Obviously, everybody knows what dual meets are all about. I feel like if we wrestle Bowman County, we have some advantages in, some weight classes, but high school wrestling, you don't know. Somebody gets thrown to their back, that's a 12-point swing. We just have to take care of our job. It's going to be a really interesting final couple of weeks here, because I think everybody's going to try and jockey for some spots, and we're just going to have to, you got to get the flip, and you got to get the bonus. You got to get the bonus. We talk about bonus wins all the time. You get them to their back, please don't let them off.
So what's your schedule look like? You got Killdeer then too? Is that coming Saturday? And then you got East West? Yeah.
What we're planning on doing is we've got those 2 duels on Friday. And what we're going to do is some of the kids were sick for the rugby tournament. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take them to Killdeer, and we're going to have them wrestle in the Killdeer tournament. The kids that went up to rugby, we're going to sit them, get them as healthy as we can. Like I said, we've had some sickness running through us. We're going to get them as healthy as we can, because Tuesday's duel is huge against Killdeer. And then we come back and we got East West, and then we're at regional duels. So it's really, it's money time. We call it the money time right now. And,
where's the dual tournament at this year?
It's over in Bowman, which I was hoping it was here. Because that could be a battle. I mean, that could be the one you need, and we all know that it's nice wrestling at home, and you get a little extra incentive there. So, but we wrestled there enough. We'll just call it home.
Oh, you'll bring a big crowd.
Yeah, we will. We travel well. I'm real happy with our parents. They travel well. They support the kids. Even parents that don't have their kids wrestling anymore, they're there. They're supporting the kids. They're cheering them on. They're loud. Yeah. They're excited. They're very knowledgeable of what's going on, and we just want to go out and put on a show. We want to wrestle hard, and we're going to do that. We're going to do that. I mean, it's been a great year, but we want to finish it on a top note.
Got a month. That's about it.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Well, now we've already been an hour, and I haven't even talked college wrestling here yet.
Hey.
Now, we got Big Ten action. We got your son, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You got lots of stuff. Tell me about how the experience is with your son going D1.
It's been great. It really has. And it's been great for 3 reasons.
Okay.
Coach Bono, Coach Reeder, Coach McDonough. Those guys there have done a spectacular job of teaching, of being the hard hand when they need to, putting the pat on the back when they need to. It's he went through a couple tough times in there. College school was it was just kind of it all balled up.
It's a grind.
Yeah, and he was he got hurt his knee, so he wasn't able to practice. So he kind of was a little bit PO'd about that. But
you feel out of place. Yep.
Yeah, and he I just told him, I said, dude, This is what you wanted. This is what you worked for. I don't know what you want me to do. I don't. I have no idea. But right now, you got to man up. You got to man up. And he said, "Yep, you're right." And you know, he loves practice. He loves competing. You know, we're actually this weekend. Actually, my wife and I, after our duels on Friday, we're driving to Fargo. I'm having him fly into Fargo, and then we're going to get up in the morning. We're going to drive to St. John so he can wrestle in that open there, because he's like, "Dad, I need to compete." And I said, "Well, that's the only open going on. So we're going to drive to St. John and then drive back, and then he'll fly back to Madison, and then we'll come home just so he can compete. He needs that competition." You know, it was a big step for him in the Ohio State duel. They have him make weight now. They have him on the bench. He goes through all the process of what they're going through. And, you know, all he said was, "I can't wait." And I said, "Your time's coming. Your time's coming." And it will come for him. You know, because he's got a great work ethic and he's got his mind right. And, you know, schooling went good. So that was a plus. He had a good first semester. So that took some stress off. And, you know, so it's going really well. It's going really well. But like I said, for 3 reasons, those 3 guys, I couldn't have, you know, like I told Coach Bono when he got there, I said, "You take care of him, and whatever you need him to do, he'll do it. All you need to do is tell him."
Yep.
And that's what he's doing. So, but he follows everybody. He follows Billy at Northern. He follows Walker. I mean, he just loves that. You know, he loves North Dakota wrestling.
Yeah.
He just absolutely loves North Dakota wrestling. When he goes to these opens, he wears his North Dakota singlet. He's like, "Dad, I want everybody to know we are tough in North Dakota. We got kids that can go, and we got kids that are good. I just want them to look at North Dakota and say, wow, you know what? That is a good wrestling state." And, you know, I couldn't be more proud of him for that, because, you know, when you go to these, you know, junior duels and things like that, you put that North Dakota on your chest. And he took that extremely seriously. It was like, dudes, we got to go. We got to knock these guys up. We got to hammer on them. We want to prove to them we're not just going to come out here and let you beat on us. And I always found that pretty funny, you know. Well, not funny. I was proud of that, because it was like, yeah, you know, we wrestle against each other all year long. Now we get to compete with each other. Now let's just be the best. Let's be better than everybody else. And we'll wear that North Dakota on our chest, and we'll be proud of that.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so.
You know, I spent a lot of time following the sport, and I listened to quite a few wrestling podcasts and lots of interviews, and I think same number, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
You brought up something, and I was listening to Coach Bono here a week or so ago, and I was actually going to pull that off and record it and get it here on the podcast. Didn't even think about it today. Kind of thought about it the day it happened, but Coach Bono in an interview, one of the 2 guys he talked about was Kyle.
Yeah.
It was, you know, so that's not an accident. I mean, he didn't do it for my sake. He didn't know I was listening from North Dakota. You know, I mean, that's real life. I mean, and Coach Bono, I was lucky enough that the last couple of years before this year, his last couple of years at South Dakota, I spent a lot of time in South Dakota, and I would get to those duels when I could.
Yeah.
Awesome. And you know, so I kind of got to watch him, and we actually dueled him a couple times, which was less fun. But you know, he's fun to watch. You know, he's fun. He's excited. I mean, you know who he is.
Yep.
And I got to believe he's awesome in the room.
Yeah.
You know, he just exudes energy and loves the sport just like a lot of us do. Yep. And I will bring up another one that came up this week. Coach Coach Brian Snyder from Nebraska was being interviewed, and he was talking about having these young guys that come in and how the first couple of years, maybe 3 years, 4 years, it might take these guys to kind of get everything right, where their diet's right and their nutrition's right and their weight and their school and technique, and he was asked who's the best at that, and of course they were talking about someone from this year's team, and he did not miss a beat. He said Jordan Shear.
Jordan Shear. Yep, I heard the same. I listened to the same thing.
Yeah, and obviously Jordan's not even on the team, and he's not even, and so it really stood out, and these are guys that we've been able to watch for a lot of years, and you talk about these guys building these relationships over the years and going on these state teams, and that was something from probably kind of been Billy's experiences up, but from the 6th grade year, that spring of his 6th grade year, he actually just started wrestling that March 1st or so of 6th grade, and was able to get on an elementary team.
Yep.
And guys like Brandon Metz and all those, it was really guys he built relationships over the years.
Yes.
And one of them that he built a relationship, I'm going to ask you one last question here tonight before we go, because it's got to be brought up, because we got to have a story. But they build these relationships on the dual teams, the Fargo camps, and when parents ask me how important it is that these kids wrestle in the summer, and I've always believed it was important to wrestle in the summer, and probably the last 5-6 years I've realized that I think it's more important because of the relationships that they build and how much they grow than it is the actual mat time that they get.
Yep.
And so I think it's more important than I did before, for that reason. I think these guys are becoming better humans because of it.
For sure.
And better, just better adults,
Yes. For sure. And that's the thing. We, for our guys in North Dakota, whether it's a Class B guy or a Class A guy, that's totally immaterial. What they build with each other through training camp, through a camp itself, going on a national team, it doesn't matter. The thing about it is what they're going to bring back. You know what? Hey, we're now buddies. Ryan and Kyle were true competitors against each other. But I'll tell you what, they're the best friends.
Yeah.
And they're the best friends because of the times they spent on these teams in the summertime, wrestling, drilling with each other. We have to just make sure that we're trying to get these guys. We got to promote these guys to say, hey, fellas, I use this young guy his name is Peyton Witt. Okay. Peyton's been on the junior dual team the last 2 years. Heck, I don't know. He works his tail off. He's from Kenmare, works his tail off. I don't know if he won a match in 2 years. Maybe he did.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, because I watch Peyton Witt right now with guys that he's wrestled with in the summer, and that's a relationship that will never end.
Correct.
And it's just like, wow, this is crazy stuff. This is what it's about. Yeah, we understand the high school season is a high school season. We get that. But once you're done, you want to move levels. You get your rear end doing summer wrestling. You get your rear end out there, and you'll jump levels. You'll jump levels. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
You'll get better.
Mm-hmm.
And, you hit it right on the head, Coach. I mean, you hit it right on the head. We need to be doing the work.
I know John's going to kick us off here pretty quick, so I need one Colby Steak story. There's got to be a lot of them. I got to have one.
Oh, let's see. I've got a bunch of those.
I bet you do.
I got a bunch of. I'll tell you one of the funniest stories. Okay. Colby, he's always you know how loud he is. Loud. And he was a great kid, great wrestler, great leader. Well, we're going to the Cowboy Invitational in Miles City. Well, they don't. I tell him, hey, Colby, they don't have a 220-pound weight class. Oh, well, you can wrestle heavyweight. Oh, I don't want to wrestle heavyweight. Okay, then you can wrestle 205. Well, geez. And he weighed like, I don't know, 214, 220, somewhere in there. I don't know what he was weighing. And he would always give these guys guff because he never had to lose any weight. He'd eat whatever he want, this, that, and the other. And hey, well, we get going, and it's the Cowboy week. And so now I got to start monitoring his weight. Dude, you got to get down 205. Don't I get any weight? No. Okay. Then we got 1 pound, 206. They got that growth allowance. 206. Well, by Thursday, he's rolling around in the middle of the room. I can't move. And boy, everybody else that he had given any little guff to was just needling him. Just stop. They were calling him every name in the book. Colby was just crying. And we got to Miles City. We worked out. He was, I don't know, a few tenths over. I'm not doing nothing. I'm not doing anything. And we always have our practice. Mm-hmm. And I said, dude, you're going to practice just like everybody else. Everybody else. These guys go through it on a weekly basis. You're going through this one time. Oh, he fought me tooth and nail. I can't do this. And by the end, he was laying in a fetal position. I can't do this no more. Well, he made weight and he won the tournament. Let's just put that.
That's good. Oh, you learned something. Yep.
So and you know what? After that, I said, you need to stop giving these guys a bad time. And he never did.
Yeah.
He never did.
Well, he learned empathy.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes. So that's
how it's taught sometimes.
Exactly. You got to go through it. But that was one that always I was just like, and he hasn't forgotten it. He hasn't forgotten it. Nope. Yeah. And he maybe I should just wrestle heavyweight. Well, there were some pretty good heavyweights. I don't think you'd have
won the tournament.
Yeah, you wouldn't have liked to wrestle some of those guys. They would have been pretty bad.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, awesome. Well, guys, we are at an hour, almost 20 minutes, so we could go forever. Randy, I'm going to have you on again. I love visiting.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I sure appreciate it.
Simple philosophy. Get past the technology, Randy. You're perfect.
Yeah. I'm glad my daughter could help me.
Yeah, get you on. I appreciate that too.
Yeah,
Bill, and we could talk college probably for another hour yet today. I've got so much college stuff to talk.
There's a lot to talk about.
Ohio State, Iowa goes, and I just Ohio State, number 4 probably. And they got some good wrestlers. They just beat Wisconsin, and so there's so much to talk about with college, but I'd get karate chopped here by my wife. Keep going on forever. Got a boy who's got a test in science again.
Jackson's got a test, huh?
Every Thursday for some reason. And they want me to review some of his stuff, but never know, guys. I tell you what, we love the sport and just keep promoting it and get those kids out there and be as successful as they possibly can be. And
absolutely,
that's all we can do. And hopefully they fall in love with the sport like we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely. That's always the goal.
Hey, Billy, tell Billy good luck.
Yeah, he's good. He's a little dinged up, but he'll be back.
Good. How's Walker doing?
Walker's also a little dinged up. So he had a pretty his record's pretty decent in some open tournaments, and then he was in a duel and when they were in Vegas and had a little knee injury. So don't know how it's going to come out, but he actually made weight last Friday night for the duel. I don't know if there was a thought of maybe putting him in at the
right.
But they weighed 2 guys in and so he did. He was able to make weight.
Not only good wrestlers, but they're scholars too. They graduate already.
Wow!
Congratulations on that.
Billy started his master's program. He's got an office. He thinks he's a big deal, and makes. I'm not calling him master yet. He's got to
earn that.
Got to get through that program first. But
you bet.
no, they're doing good. They're
Awesome.
Riley Lura will graduate this year, or so will Walker, and they're doing good. I think it was pretty awesome. We had a team get together that one of the alumni actually was Northern's first national champion down there. Doug has everybody over once a year, and they have Indian tacos, and we have a great time. And
nice.
Man, it was a big crowd this year. And there was no. I was the only parent there, I believe, and because everybody else was smart enough not to drive to Aberdeen, South Dakota in a blizzard, but they had a big crowd, and I think the first year they had that, that's probably, when Rocky took the program over, I think he had 7 wrestlers in the room. And now I think they're right about 30.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's so awesome. It's the program's pretty healthy and growing. So that's kind of fun. It stood out that night because you don't always, I'm not in the room. I don't see how many are there battling. I see the 10 guys that show up at and wrestle duels.
Right.
Maybe and some others in open tournaments. But so that's been fun. It's fun.
Awesome.
It's been fun
Doug listens to this show now and then. So
great people. They really, really have done a nice job there. And
so cool.
I know that obviously we talked quite a bit, about how Kyle's doing, and it's fun to see, and I can't wait till next year to hopefully follow him on the starting lineup over there. So, but there's some big duels coming up, on the D1 side. Great tournament internationally last weekend. We saw Kyle Dake smash the world again, and
he's unreal, isn't he?
Oh, he's crazy. It's just, it's like I don't know how someone can just and we're talking at the world level. Decide. It's just like he just decides. Okay, now I'm gonna just tech fall someone. It's just go 11-0 in the finals, and just kind of scores at will, and it's pretty incredible. So
he's at a different level.
Yeah, it's fun to watch though.
You bet. Hey, for us it is. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, I'm glad I'm not on the other side. But,
I started to put the speed on my YouTube watching the videos at almost 2 times to try to get through them all. No, just keep going. I do that. I knew that for all the podcasts. Now I'm at 1.5. I used to do 1.25, and I just get. I'm getting into a lot of that stuff. Some of those interviews. It's another good thing.
Yep.
And I don't know if anybody watched the Iowa-Nebraska duel.
Yep.
But what a great duel! I mean, if you look at the final, I think it was 8-2 in matches. It kind of sounds like a
lot closer.
There was 8 super close matches.
Absolutely.
133 to 97, and really
Big Ten Network has had a lot of the stuff on lately on Sunday nights. It's been really good. Yeah,
so that was fun to watch, and it would be worth going back and watching if someone hasn't watched it. They can find it. I record them all, and so I don't miss any. But
so you don't miss them.
I don't miss any. I'll go watch one right now. I'm ready.
There you go.
Okay. Well, guys, almost an hour and a half. I'm going to cut us off, but we'll catch you later. Hey, good luck this weekend, Randy, with your big goals, New Salem and all that other good stuff.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
I'll be in Fargo with the Metro Duels. If anybody wants to talk wrestling, come visit. I'll have lots of stuff there. East-West Class A. Tomorrow night, Dickinson goes against Century. Minot and Mandan go in Class A. I'm trying to think of any other things real quick. Other duels tomorrow night? Remember any?
I don't remember on the dual side. Obviously, the Store Hog is this weekend. Kind of the
huge
one big
tournament. I want to get Store Hog on. In fact, I'm going to give him a call this next week. So that's a guy, somebody from Lisbon. I would love. He's a great guy to talk to, and he'll bring up some names for us. I tell you what.
Let me tell you a quick story about Nick.
Okay, that's fine. Let's do that.
Just quick.
Yep.
That was the first wrestling camp I ever put on, was in Lisbon, North Dakota. And you tell Nick when you talk to him, I still have that jacket that he gave me.
Oh, okay. Yep. That's good.
I do.
Okay. I will
still have it.
I will tell him.
Still have that windbreaker jacket he gave me when we came. Paul Siebert and I put that camp on for him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will tell them. Definitely.
Tell them hi.
Okay. I will. Okay. Well, guys, you guys have a great night.
See you
Dakota
guys.
Grappler again says promote the sport. Thanks again for watching.
Yep.